Oh, dear God. I'll make sure Mandel knows. Oh, no, I have.
Red light, green. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order of the Glendora City Council at a special meeting of the Glendora City Council and do so at 6:03 p.m. For the audience tonight, my name is David Friedendahl. I am your mayor and will be the presiding officer over this evening's meetings. In consideration of others, kindly silence your phones or any other electronic devices so as to not startle yourself or someone else when the Uber guy calls you. And we'll get into how we're going to do comments and things in just a moment, but we ask that we refrain from speaking until recognized. And I think we'll have a nice opportunity for plenty of conversation. Again, this is a public meeting for the city of Glendora, and we appreciate and respect your participation this evening. Little housekeeping item, just through the door in the rear of the room from where we're sitting and a little walkway across the patio, there is a restroom. So should you need one, you're welcome to please enjoy that. For the record, all members of the city council and respective staff are available or in attendance and prepared to have this evening's meeting. I will introduce the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're capable, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The business this evening is workshop number 1 of our facilities restructuring opportunities, and tonight's session is about foundation and funding. So good evening, Glendora, and welcome to this public forum workshop. It is intended to address a generation of issues and concerns facing our city related to facilities. Bird maintenance issues, the realities to our next steps, and toward addressing the very real issues and options toward a productive path toward a solution. This workshop series has been created in response to the residents asking to be engaged in our discussion, our future, share priorities, that matter and to make this a truly community-driven process to rebuild for our future. As such, the format of this meeting will be formal for the record, yet informal in the process, as I wish to conduct these workshops in a manner that facilitates discussion, productive, civil, and healthy conversation to learn about and choose our next steps. I want to allow the discussion and interaction to be a little different than the formal that you might be used to, where you've been asked to complete a card, stand up at a podium, be allowed only 3 minutes on one time to speak. And to me, that's great to get a message across, but it doesn't allow for a good engagement and a dialogue to ask questions and hear answers. So we're going to, as long as we remain civil, and which Glendora always is, and respectful, and conduct those businesses and allow people to speak and wait our turn, I think everyone will get to speak, and we will in fact be able to conduct a positive, productive proceedings in a good manner. This evening we'll have a presentation of the history of how we got here, what are some options might be in funding capacities, driving toward an action plan and a direction for the use of one-time plans to begin the investment for our next era. The direction to staff a few weeks ago was to conduct public workshops, learn about public input and engagement, and they broke that up into 3 different sections, and this one is titled to give staff a direction on what's next on the use of the identified one-time funding that was identified at a recent council meeting. So that's what tonight's about, to learn for input and priorities and what the community feels are valuable, so that this body can then make some assertions and give direction to staff on the next steps. Following workshops will have different nuances and focus on a little bit different facility opportunities and scopes. So we're going to keep it, and if you're not hearing, gee, but what about this? It may not be in the scope of this evening's program. Doesn't mean it's not to come. I also would like to recognize that staff has spent the time since that last council meeting preparing more than 4,000 pages of history, documentation, information, details, and opportunities for us to then make some conclusions and have that information to make the best choices of how to spend those one-time funding opportunities. A great amount of time and research has been investigated by the entire staff. Our presentation is a little lengthy, you might seem, but it's valuable, and we need that so that we can all get onto the same page of how we got here and what we might be able to do next. So I hope that we'll engage in this, and if something passes that you're not clear about, maybe that's one of your questions. It's the entire package is on the agenda website for meetings, so if you want to go back and look at that, it's available to the public, and you're welcome to, in fact, take a look at it and engage. So with that, I will read into the title, The Workshop, Foundation and Funding, Seeking Direction of Use of One-Time Funds, Categories, Projects, and/or Combinations thereof. And this evening presenting will be our Assistant Public Works Director, Valerie Velasquez Santoya. She's got her track shoes on and a great presentation for us, so please enjoy and let's watch and learn. Valerie, welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Good evening, Council and members of the community. So as mentioned, we have a lot of information to cover this evening. So I'm going to walk you through at a high level the information included in the staff report, and then turn it back to City Council as well as the community for public comment, and ultimately for Council discussion and direction. So tonight, staff is asking the City Council to provide direction on how one-time funds should be allocated among major categories, specific projects or priorities, or a combination of both. The goal is to receive direction on how the City Council would like staff to begin shaping a one-time funding package in the range of approximately $8 to $12 million focused on streets and or existing city facilities. Also consistent with prior council direction, the library and public works yard are not part of tonight's discussion. Those two facilities will be discussed separately at workshop 2. So the discussion this evening directly supports the City Council's strategic plan, specifically Goal 3, new and revitalized facilities, as well as Goal 4, sustainable infrastructure. Goal 3 focuses on enhancing city facilities and public spaces in a way that supports connectivity, accessibility, and civic pride, while Goal 4 focuses on infrastructure that improves street conditions, expands trail connectivity, upgrades water systems, improves safety and mobility, and supports a resilient community. The strategic plan is actively being implemented. As shown here, about half of the plan actions are now complete. Most of the remaining items are in progress, and only a small number have not yet been started. Today, the city is in a very different financial position than it was several years ago. Through organizational modernization, voter-approved measures E and Z, pension restructuring, and stronger financial policies, the city eliminated a prior structural deficit of approximately $3.5 to $4 million and earned a AAA bond rating. At the same time, major needs remain. Streets, facilities, water infrastructure, parks, and other capital assets continue to require significant investment. The opportunity before City Council tonight exists because of fiscal discipline. The city now has the ability to use one-time funding to make meaningful progress on documented needs without a new tax. As a reminder, and it was mentioned before, this is one of 3 focused workshops. Workshop 1, which is tonight, will be asking council to provide direction on how to allocate the $8 to $12 million towards streets and or existing facilities. Workshop 2 will be held on July 21st, and that one will focus on the library and the public works yard, 2 of the more significant or most significant facilities needs, requiring a separate discussion based on their size, structural issues, cost, and phasing needs. And then workshop 3 will be held on September 15th and will focus on longer term funding options, next steps, including grants, land sales, potential debt issuance, and whether or not the City Council would like to establish a citizen advisory committee. So workshop 1 is intended to answer 2 questions. First, how did the city get here? This is not the beginning of the conversation. City Council and the community have been discussing these issues for several years, if not decades, through infrastructure studies, strategic planning, community surveys, facility assessments, pavement data, and capital improvement planning. Second, how should the $8 to $12 million be allocated? Tonight's direction can be by category, by specific project, or some combination of these approaches. In this first section, I'll briefly walk through how we got here. The key message in this first section is that tonight's discussion is the result of a fiscal turnaround, years of study and public engagement, and a deliberate City Council decision to reinvest savings back into the city's core assets. A 2002 Los Angeles Times article read, "It's a fairly well-to-do suburb with multi-million-dollar mansions in the foothills and a bustling commercial center, but Glendora's infrastructure is crumbling and the city cannot afford repairs." We point to this article, which was more than 2 decades ago, because it shows Glendora's infrastructure challenges are not new. At the time, the article described Glendora as a well-regarded community with significant infrastructure needs that the city could not afford to address. The article identified approximately $100 million in repairs needed for the city-owned water system, another $22 million needed for streets, and only $15 million in total reserves. That history matters because the city is dealing with many of the same types of needs today, but the city's financial position has changed and provides an opportunity to address some of these needs. Here we have a comparison of what has changed since 2002. In 2002, the city had major infrastructure needs, but very limited financial capacity to respond. The needs were known, but the city did not have the funding, tools, reserves, or ongoing reserve structure to address them at the level required. Today, the needs are still significant, but the city is in a much stronger position to act. The structural deficit has been eliminated. The city has earned the AAA bond rating. Measures E and Z have stabilized key revenues, and organizational modernization has created ongoing savings for reinvestment. So the point is not that the infrastructure challenge went away. The point is that the city is now in a position to do something meaningful about it. Building on the last slide, this slide explains why the city is in a stronger position today. Over the past several years, the city restored financial stability through voter-approved measures, pension restructuring, organizational efficiencies, and stronger financial policies. That fiscal turnaround eliminated the $3.5 to $4 million deficit, helped the city earn the AAA bond rating, and allowed the city to reinvest approximately $2 million annually into core services, maintenance, and infrastructure. That is the foundation for tonight's discussion. The city is no longer limited to responding to these needs only when something breaks or becomes urgent. Instead, the city council is now in a position to make a more deliberate decision about how to responsibly use a portion of the capacity created through years of financial discipline. So this slide shows how the modernization savings are invested back into the organization and the community. Public safety benefits through Measure E and Z funding, including through the Community Impact Team. The city created a dedicated facilities division, which allows us to move away from purely reactive repairs towards planned assessment-driven maintenance. Preventative maintenance has increased significantly from approximately $350,000 to $1.4 million annually, and street preservation has increased as well to $1 million annually. The city has also stabilized its workforce with labor agreements settled through 2028, and 15 employees who left the organization have returned because of the improved culture and professional management. Here we have a timeline of the major steps that brought us here. While this timeline begins in 2023 for purposes of this evening's workshop, the city has studied and evaluated infrastructure, facility, street, and water system needs for decades. What this timeline shows is the more recent series of reports, assessments, surveys, and council direction that led directly to tonight's discussion. Since 2023, the City Council received reports on library structural analysis, the water system assessment, facility needs, the True North Survey, which gauges community priorities, mid-year budget information, facility capital needs, our strategic plan, the pavement management program, civic center renderings, and workshop framework. Most relevant to tonight's discussion, the timeline includes the identification of approximately $50 million in facility maintenance needs over a 20-year period, as well as City Council direction to identify additional funding opportunities of approximately $3 million annually to improve the citywide PCI from 63 to 70 over a 7-year period. The point of this slide is that tonight's discussion is not isolated. It's the culmination of multiple assessments, public meetings, and prior council direction. So section 2, before getting into the funding discussion, we wanted to address oversight and accountability. Every year, the city finances are reviewed through independent audits and regulatory reporting. This is important because tonight's discussion involves the use of one-time funds, and the City Council and public should have confidence that these funds are tracked, reviewed, and reported. For fiscal year 2024 through 2025, the city received a clean, unmodified opinion on the annual comprehensive financial report. The city also maintains a AAA bond rating, which is the highest available. In addition to the annual financial audit, the city is subject to several independent audits and agreed upon procedure engagements, including federal grants, housing successor compliance, GAN appropriation limit, investment policy compliance, metro local funds, and AQMD funds. So section 3, this brings us to the decision before City Council. Fiscal discipline has created a one-time opportunity that is something the City Council, staff, and community can be proud of. Many cities are not in a position to have this type of discussion. especially while facing significant facility, street, and infrastructure needs. At the same time, having the capacity to invest does not make the decision easy. These are still public dollars, the needs exceed the available funding, and the choices made tonight will shape how quickly the city can address certain priorities. So the question before the City Council is how to direct this opportunity towards the community's most enduring needs in a responsible, strategic, and transparent way. So the city's community surveys provide important context for tonight's discussion. Residents continue to rate Glendora's quality of life highly, with 84% rating it good to excellent. At the same time, streets and roads have consistently been one of the community's most durable priorities. Satisfaction with road maintenance has declined to 55%, which is down 8 points since 2022, and streets and infrastructure remain closely connected to residents' overall quality of life. The survey work also shows that residents recognize the need to maintain and repair aging city facilities. While support was strongest for basic repairs, safety improvements, code compliance, and extending the useful life of existing facilities, there was less support for larger or more expensive facility concepts that would require a new tax measure. The survey also shows that residents recognize the city's financial stewardship, with 70% saying the city manages its finances well. That is important because it shows the community generally trusts the city to make responsible financial decisions. At the same time, residents remain cost sensitive. Taxes are already too high was the leading reason residents hesitated to support a local bond measure. That's why one-time funding fits this moment. It allows the city to address high priority street and facility needs while being responsive to the community's reluctance to take on a new tax burden. When this information was first presented in February, staff estimated approximately $41.2 million in one-time funding capacity through the end of fiscal year 2030 through 2031. Since that time, the fiscal year 24-25 audit has been completed, and staff updated the available funding information. The slide shows that the city's updated one-time funding capacity has increased by approximately $5 million, from roughly $41 million to approximately $46.3 million. The additional $5 million provides the City Council with additional flexibility as it considers whether to stay closer to the $8 million range or move closer to the $12 million range for streets and existing facilities. We also want to point out that not all funding sources carry the same flexibility, timing, or risk. Available fund balance, CIP reallocations, property sales, pension set-asides, and OPEB set-asides each have different considerations. Once the council identifies the preferred projects or categories, staff will match the appropriate funding sources to the project list. Section 4. We'll now move into the first major category available for council direction tonight: existing city facilities. The attachments in tonight's agenda include the facility condition assessment expenditure forecast, the recommended maintenance list for 2026 through 2030, and a summary of facility projects already completed over the last several years. The purpose of this section is to summarize that information and explain how staff is proposing to use the facility assessment as a more formal work planning tool moving forward. The Bureau Veritas Facility Condition Assessment reviewed major building systems, including roofing, exterior conditions, accessibility, safety, electrical systems, HVAC, plumbing, and site improvements. The assessment identified approximately $50 million in maintenance needs over a 20-year period, which is summarized in attachment O of the packet tonight. For the 2026 through 2030 period, the recommended maintenance summary identifies approximately $10.5 million in near-term needs, as provided in attachment P. Staff also provided an updated cost basis because recent project costs show that the original cost estimates in that report were too low compared to current pricing. The facility condition assessment is not the final answer to every facility issue, but it gives the city a structured starting point for prioritizing work. Part of the city's modernization includes a new operating model for the facility maintenance program. Historically, much of the city's facility maintenance was reactive. We fixed what broke when it broke, often without a dedicated team or structured work plan. Needs and costs continued to grow. The new model is different. The city now has a dedicated facilities division with a supervisor, lead worker, and maintenance staff. Approximately 75% of the team's time is intended to be directed towards assessment identified priorities while preserving flexibility for urgent safety, code, and operational needs. This new approach moves the city towards planned, prioritized maintenance instead of waiting for failures to occur. So the city has already made a significant shift in facility maintenance. Annual facilities maintenance spending has increased roughly fourfold since 2018, from approximately $350,000 per year to approximately $1.4 million. $4 million in facility projects have been completed at various city facilities over the last 2 years. This increased investment is meaningful. It helps the city manage the backlog more responsibly and reduce the risk of larger failures over time, but it is also important to recognize that it does not eliminate the full backlog. As just mentioned, $4 million in facility projects has already been completed across multiple city facilities. The work includes roof and HVAC replacements, electrical and plumbing upgrades, ADA and safety improvements, asbestos remediation, security systems, and LED retrofits. Some of this work was identified in the assessment, and some of it arose unexpectedly because of safety, code, operational, or service needs. Facility condition assessment is a guide, but real-world building needs can and often do arise. Staff will continue using the assessment while also responding to urgent needs as they arise. The library is one of the city's most significant facility needs. Built in 1972 with the Bidwell Plaza serving as the roof over much of the lower or main floor, the facility has experienced historic and ongoing water intrusion, and the city has completed a structural analysis to evaluate renovation potential and future options. However, as mentioned earlier, consistent with City Council direction, tonight we will not be using the one-time funds for the library or public works yard, but they will be brought back for discussion at Workshop 2 on July 21st. The city has and continues to make real progress, but the remaining need is still significant. Approximately $50 million in current facility needs has been documented, and longer-term modernization needs are estimated at more than $250 million. Construction inflation is also outpacing the original assumptions in the facility conditions assessment. Tonight's one-time funding decision will not solve every facility need. The question is how far the city can responsibly stretch the resources available and which needs the City Council wants to prioritize first. So moving to Section 5, the second major category for tonight's discussion, streets and roads. This is one of the clearest and most consistent priorities we hear from the community. It is also one of the areas where City Council reinvestment has already made a measurable difference. The purpose of this discussion, or of this section, is to review the pavement condition data, explain why the city cannot rely only on a worst first approach, and walk through the preliminary street segment options included for council consideration. The city street and alley network is a major public asset with an estimated replacement value of approximately $439 million. The network includes approximately 163 centerline miles and 30.6 million square feet of pavement. The 2025 Pavement Management Program identified an average citywide PCI, which is a pavement condition index of 63.2, which places the network in the fair range. Today, 32% of the network is good to very good, 22% is fair, and 46 is poor to very poor. That means a significant portion of the network already requires overlay or reconstruction. The key message on streets is that holding the line is a win. Pavement is continually deteriorating. That is simply the nature of the asset. Every year, streets age, weather affects the pavement, traffic loads continue, and conditions decline unless there is ongoing reinvestment. The citywide PCI fell to 59 in 2018. Through reinvestment, the city brought the network back into the fair range and has largely held it there. Without that reinvestment, the network would have likely continued to slide into the poor range. That does not mean the street system is where we want it to be. In fact, at the presentation of the updated 2025 Pavement Management Program, Council set the goal of moving the citywide PCI up to the good range score of 70 within the next 7 years. This goal presents a funding gap, which we'll get to in a few more slides. So today we remain in the fair range, but we can note that the city's strategy has prevented a worse outcome and created a stronger base from which to improve. The city's investment in preventive street maintenance has increased to $1 million today. This is a deliberate policy decision to preserve good streets before they fail. In addition to preventive maintenance, the city has also made major capital investments in street improvements over the last several years. Another example of modernization savings being reinvested into core infrastructure. So with this slide, we look to answer a common question: why do we treat good streets first? Preventive maintenance is most cost-effective when performed before a street fails. The general industry principle is that $1 spent early on preservation can avoid approximately $6 to $10 in reconstruction costs later. The cost of reconstruction is vastly greater than preventive maintenance. That is why the city cannot use purely a worst first approach. Staff has to balance low PCI streets, preservation candidates, and available funding. Preserving good streets is often the highest return on investment, even though the worst streets may be most visible. So the proposed segment list in your packet for streets is included as attachment S. It was developed using a strategic approach. Staff considered pavement condition, community-wide benefit, project readiness, and coordination with future water work. Infrastructure is very important. We want to avoid paving a street that will soon need to be cut open for water main replacement or other ground utility work. When possible, street and water projects should be coordinated so the city does the underground work first and then completes the pavement improvements. It's a smart way to leverage limited funds and make them go further. The proposed list includes approximately $18.175 million in street options. That is intentionally larger than the $8 to $12 million amount capacity that council has to work with, and that's intended to be on purpose in order to provide a menu of options rather than a single staff selected package. The slide also explains why the citywide PCI may only move modestly, even with major investment. Street projects improve important corridors, but they each represent only a very small portion of the city's 163-mile or 30.6 million street network. While some segments are improved, the rest of the network continues to age and push the average citywide PCI down. So long-term PCI improvement requires sustained annual funding. Another thing I would like to mention, in addition to the grind and overlay street segment options that are in the project list, Council also has the option to allocate additional funding towards preventative maintenance, such as slurry seal. As mentioned earlier, the most cost-effective time to invest in pavement is before a street fails. Slurry seal is one of the tools the city uses to extend the life of streets that are still in better condition, which helps slow deterioration and avoids more expensive reconstruction later. The city already invests about $500,000 annually towards slurry seal. Depending on the final streets selected, the existing pavement condition, and bid pricing, the annual program can treat roughly 600 to 900,000 square feet of pavement and may improve the citywide PCI by approximately 0.6 to 0.9 points. Council could also choose to allocate, so council can still also allocate additional funds to the expanded slurry seal program, which would allow additional treatment and an opportunity to provide more streets. Staff considered pavement condition, community-wide benefit. Am I still, are you on the wrong slide? We're there. 31. There we go. Next slide. Next slide. There we go. Okay, as mentioned earlier, City Council set a goal to move the citywide PCI from 63.2 to 70 over 7 years. To do so, even with the city's recent increased investment, there is still a funding gap. Current pavement averages approximately $5.4 million per year. The 2025 Pavement Management Program tells us that approximately $8.4 million per year over the course of 7 years is needed to reach the PCI 70 or good range. That leaves an annual shortfall of roughly $3 million per year. In addition, approximately 53% of the network, or 86.6 miles, now requires overlay or reconstruction. The one-time funding package can help, but it does not replace the need for sustained annual pavement investment, which we will need to keep investing in every year. Okay, so we're now reaching the point of the presentation where we move from information to council direction. Staff has provided council with a menu of options. The street segment list is larger than the available funding range on purpose, so council has choices. The facility maintenance list is also broader than what can realistically be completed with the one-time funding available tonight. That means the key question is not whether every need is important. They are. The question is what council wants to prioritize first with this particular one-time funding opportunity. The options are as follows. Council may provide a target allocation between streets and facilities. Council may identify specific street segments or facility priorities that it wants included in the package. Council may direct to include an additional preventative maintenance allocation, such as mentioned with the expanded slurry seal program. Or council may provide a combination of category level and project-specific direction. After tonight, staff will take council's direction, refine the numbers, confirm sequencing, evaluate funding sources, and return with the appropriate steps. With regards to fiscal impact and environmental determination, there is no immediate fiscal impact from receiving this report and participating in tonight's workshop. Future council direction on the use of the one-time funds will require additional fiscal analysis based on the amount, source, timing, and purpose of the funding. And for CEQA purposes, tonight's workshop and report are not a project. The action is to receive information, discuss priorities, and provide direction to staff. Any future project approvals will be evaluated for environmental review as required. Following council direction, staff will refine project scopes, cost estimates, confirm utility coordination and sequencing, identify funding sources, and return with any necessary budget, CIP, or project-specific actions. With that, that concludes staff's presentation. At this point, staff recommends transitioning to City Council questions, public comment, and council discussion.
Thank you, Valerie. You all got your pencil out? There's a quiz coming. A tremendous amount of information, and we certainly appreciate the effort the staff put in to gather all that. It was no small task. As anything happens in the community, we have some partners, so I want to give a shout out to a couple of our community partners who have joined us since we began. We have Mr. Nehemiah from Athens Services. They promised lighter trash trucks to not tear up our streets. Not possible, but thank you for joining us. And Mr. Jack Arton from State Senator Sasha Renee Perez's office. The senator is engaged and very interested in learning what Glendora's state is and can she help. So thank you to the senator and Jack's participation as a great community partner. Before we get into our comments or questions, I'll ask the clerk, do we have any written correspondence that has been received?
No, Mayor, we have not
Great.
received any.
Thank you. What I'd like to do, as I mentioned earlier, instead of having public comment for 2 or 3 minutes, our city manager, Mr. Adam Raymond, will be gracious to bring the microphone to you. And what I'd like to do is, if you would kindly state your name, we're going to try to track it just so we know who's asking questions in case we need to follow up with some information later. So that's not a bad girl list or bad boy list. It's just we want to track instead of doing all the little yellow cards. Save a step. So if you'd kindly share your name, offer your comment or questions, and if it's a question that obviously deserves an answer, we will address that to the appropriate staffer or ourselves in the room so that we do in fact address those questions and comments. I would ask that the comments look at where are we today. I think we all learned how we got here. We learned about 50 years ago, so let's don't beat each other up for the past 50 years. Let's move forward for the next 50 to 100 years, but your input is valued, so please share, and we look forward to finding out what are your choices if you had that big bag of money, and what are your priorities, please, so that we can help make some good choices that benefits all of us. So, Mr. Raymond.
Just one piece of housekeeping. We usually don't give the microphone away because you never get it back, but all of you look like you'll behave yourselves. I will give you the microphone, and then I don't want to play tug of war. Please, I beg of you. I promise I will let you hold it. Okay. As long as we all behave ourselves. Like rule number 1 that we're going to break already. So
I think this room looks pretty responsible. So
I agree. All right. All right. We'll start here. Yeah.
My name is Mike Barron, and first of all, just thank you for all the effort that went into providing this information, making it available on the agenda, being able to download it. So that's, great. And having this workshop also, I think, is very, very positive. There were a lot of numbers that were provided, investment opportunities, but we didn't have a time frame. So the one-time funding could be allocated towards that $18 million amount for fixing the roads, right? And having the maintenance that we think would bring the rating from 60-something to 70. So if you could address all that effort to spend that money, would that be done in 1 year? Would that be done in 3 years? What's the time horizon for whatever we choose? Some of the projects will take more time than others, but there's a lot of focus on streets. So I'd just like to know what kind of time frame the street investment you're looking for to be able to do the things that you want to do. Preventative maintenance being number 1, and then trying to fix that 60%, the bad stuff.
Okay. Is Moises going to field that one, or Valerie will? Okay. I want to share one comment that came out or didn't come out, but it's a thought. If we had $100 million today to fix streets, doggone it, you won't get the one in front of my own house. Everybody's going to say that, okay? So please recognize that when you learned about the segments or the opportunities and stretches and how little distance money goes versus asphalt and mileage, there's a strong reality that we may not get the piece in front of your house, but we're going to try to do what's the better fit for the entire community, if that makes sense. So anyway, Valerie?
Understand your question, and we will do our best to be aggressive and try and get these done as soon as possible. I know council is going to probably really be honest, to try and spend this money as quickly as possible. That said, we may have to do a little bit of design work and before we can get our bids out, but we will do our best possible. We're just about to start fiscal year 27, so we will do our best to get these projects underway by the time we start approaching fiscal year 28. In all real talk, we're probably looking at sometime in calendar year 27, I would say, that we can get these done.
My name is Gary Boyer. First off, I want to commend the council and the staff for having this meeting. This is something that couldn't happen 10 years ago. And it's really important that we have these types of conversations. One of the things, I think most of you know, where my passions are right now. But we have, the city council and this staff has created a water plan that has moved our water department in the right direction. We've gotten water rates to where they need to be so that reinvestment can be made into the water structure in the city. The same thing's been done with the street plan already, and we've done in the neighborhood of about 40 miles of streets in the last 5 or 6 years. That's more than had been done in the previous 30 years. And so there is a street plan in place already. On the city website, we've done a great job with identifying the projects that have been done over the last 5 years with a plan for the projects going out for the next 5. What's currently listed is going out to about 2030. So we currently have about $27 million worth of street projects projected between now and 2030. It appears as though about 25 million of that funding has been identified between Prop A and C and Measure R and Measure M. So a lot of that, about 20 million has been identified, and it looks like about 5 million has been already budgeted from the city's budget. First, I'm not convinced that we have the ability to do any more street projects than what we already have on the calendar. So it would be tough to convince me that by adding additional money into the streets funds right now, we're going to see any more street improvements than what is already a pretty aggressive plan. But one of the things I do worry about is that if this one-time funds gets put into the streets, that some of those funds will be redirected somewhere else, because we all know government financing gets a little bit tricky. So personally, we're looking at the facilities right now. We know what the issues are with facilities. There's no real priorities. We know we have, $100 million or more in needs here in the city. We also, let's face it, we know we're not going to get this done without the help of the residents of Glendora. So I'd really like to see us concentrate on doing what needs to be done to show that we've already addressed the water and the streets, and let's move forward with a more structured facilities plan so that when we do go back out in the community and start having this conversation, we see some progress. So that's my comments. Thanks.
Before that gets addressed, don't all raise your hand at one time. Who wants to be next? I'll make my way over.
I assure you the mayor is not making a giant archway in town like somebody in the East Coast is trying to do.
Moises, do you mind addressing a little bit about the funding gap in the plan? And I think the commentary about the level of investment is accurate. We're making more investment than ever. You want to talk just a little bit more about the gap there on the streets?
Sure, and I'll speak specifically about streets. So back in December 2024, we presented the results of the pavement condition survey of the city. So it's a citywide evaluation of every single city street and alleyway, and we score it from 0 to 100. 100 is a brand new street, 0 is dirt for all intents and purposes. And so on a citywide basis, our score is just over 63, as Valerie mentioned. And so when we program the projects for streets, what we're doing right now is we're prioritizing conversation right now at the state of California. We receive money from the state of California based on the amount of gasoline that's purchased here in town. There are other proposition or measures that have been acted on a county-wide basis for which we get money to be able to work on roadway infrastructure. Now, all of that money isn't focused exclusively on repaving our streets. Yeah, a good portion of it goes in that bucket, but it also helps us replace sidewalk throughout our community. It helps us upgrade our traffic signal infrastructure, which is also a very big need. And so we do our best to balance those needs and use the available funding at our disposal so that we match our highest priority needs with the funding that we have available. Each one of those funding categories that I mentioned has a very specific set of rules for which we can use it. And so while we get, on average $2.1, $2.2 million in gas tax, the rules that I can use that money for are completely different than, say, Proposition C, which is more transportation-related funding and helps offset not just the acquisition of the buses, big orange buses you see, but also pays for the operation of that system. So it's not a general fund impact or money that we have most flexibility to be able to spend. And so all those funding, as Valerie alluded to, all those funding sources get audited every year. We get called in to the principal's office to make sure that we're using that money correctly and testify to the Board of Supervisors or to our counterparts at the state that we're using that money appropriately. And so it's a team effort. Public Works staff leads a lot of that, and we work closely in hand with our finance staff. Now, more globally, kind of setting aside the streets bucket, if you will, for a moment, one of the things that we've done in the last couple of years with the support of the council is we've conducted assessments across all of our infrastructure here at the city. So streets is obviously a very big and important visible component. Mr. Boyer also alluded to our water infrastructure assessment that was completed a couple of years ago. That was basically a comprehensive look at every piece of equipment in our water conveyance system, from pipes in the street to fire hydrants to pumps to storage reservoirs. That report, which is quite lengthy in and of itself, prioritizes all of our capital project needs for the entire water infrastructure assessment. Now, setting that one to aside, you've heard Valerie mention the facility condition assessment. That same comprehensive look at every single one of our facilities was conducted. So now we have three kind of critical core documents from which we pull and try to prioritize those projects to ultimately inform the development of the capital improvement plan. So we're doing all of these assessments to create a baseline and effectively create a very deliberate and unemotional plan that focuses on our highest priorities to address those biggest needs in our community. And then we do a little bit of interpretation to make sure that we're leveraging those funding opportunities to maximize the benefit for our community. So it's a comprehensive team effort. We do it with the council every single year, and a lot of staff are involved in that.
Any other? Great.
My name is Timothy Moore. And thanks to everyone for all their hard work. Excluding streets and water, how much money or resources does the city have before there needs to be a ballot measure or, as Gary says, citizen participation?
How lovely of you all to look this way. So that is a great question. And it really depends on the level of the facility improvement necessary. So we went through a visioning exercise about a revitalized civic center that had a price tag of $125 million. The city went through the same process in the 60s when City Hall and other city facilities were built, and again in the 80s. And both of those times ended up in various projects being done, but not at the level that needed to sort of reimagine a lot of the other facilities. We have a lot of facilities in town. If you hike and you've seen some of the facilities up in those areas, the bathrooms need to be redone. Those buildings need to be redone. There's a lot of roofs. So it really depends on the number of facilities and at the level of which we want to redo them to bring them up to current ADA standards and accessibility standards. So as was pointed out this evening, the city has made investments higher than we've had in decades, and we still can't catch up all the way. So we're already behind now because of some of the financial moves that were made and the policies that were passed by the council. It has allowed us through some of these other efficiencies to allow a one-time conversation, but it took us 6 years to get here today to allocate some funding. So it is not a fast time, but we are making movement. So the answer to your question is it depends, but it largely depends on the appetite for how many buildings and the scope of the project that we want to undertake.
If I could add to that, That doesn't mean we haven't invested in facilities. So you'll notice in the staff report, we identified about $10.5 million worth of facility projects. That's just what's prioritized in the assessment for the next 4 years, between 2026 and 2030. So since the assessment was completed in 23, we've expended about $4 million addressing existing facilities needs. So that's not reflected in the table or the charts that we've provided already, because we already handle those. Moving forward, our game plan is to be that much more deliberate in addressing all of the items that are in the facility condition assessment. So 75% of the time that our facilities division is going to be working on something, it's going to be something that's specifically identified in the facility condition assessment, so that we know that we're addressing everything that we've identified as a priority for the community.
My name is Krista Granger. Thank you guys for putting this together. The street that my wife and I live on, I think you guys replaced the street when you guys did the water. So that makes sense. I know one of my neighbors was, I think, called pretty regularly to get it done and never understood why. So I appreciate the communication. One suggestion or thought is, I don't know if you're going to use the same vendor, but there were a couple spots on our street that I wouldn't have expected to have depressions and have some issues already. I think the street was replaced 2-3 years ago. So if you're going to use the same vendor, I would, really challenge them to do a better job. I think you guys might, for you guys replacing it brand new, I just shouldn't see that. And then the other thing I would suggest, as just something for the community, I walk daily, and I ended up reaching out to the city to ask them to have the lines where the cars stop to be behind where the ramp is for the parking, because I will walk quite frequently and cars do not stop. And so if we're going to do that, even if you push them back to where the stop sign is, but for safety of the walkers, if you're going to make some of these, I would really appreciate that, because I can't tell you how many times I'm almost been hit because people just disregard them. So if we could maybe push them back a little and think about the safety of the residents, I'd really appreciate it as you're addressing street repairs.
Thank you, Chris. And on the stop lines, there's a state formula mandated regulation, so we should make sure, obviously, that we've hit those. I'm going to ask you a favor. Before you leave, if you would leave your name and street name with the clerk in the corner by the door, that way we can possibly come back and look at that pavement.
So yes, I would love to know what street you're on, and we can follow up on that. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon. Sometimes when they recompact the soil in certain areas, it's not to the degree that it should be, but we have gone back in certain instances and been able to stabilize it or flatten back out. So that's one. Shameless plug, we do have an app, a 311 app. So if you see something out of place anywhere in the community, it's a relatively simple app to use. You can take a picture of it. It's got a couple of questions. It creates an automatic work order for Public Works. We can go out and take a look at it, evaluate it, and if there's an issue based on your concerns, then we'll make modifications.
That's a bureaucracy at its finest, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
The app, in case anybody would like to download it, if you don't already have it, it's titled My Civic Services. Scroll down, there's a drop-down menu for the city. Click City of Glendora.
And it works. I've done it a couple of times, and it's been quite responsive. So very good.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, Jane.
Hi, Jane Bach. A couple of quick questions, and I don't want to make a big, I'm not asking for a big conversation, just maybe a yes or a no. Ha ha ha. So the gas company came in and redid piping or whatever on our street, and they patched it, or someone patched it when they were gone. So my question really is that was their decision to come in and redo that, but we have to pay for the road to be redone correctly? Yes? No?
No. When they cut into the road, they're supposed to repair it back to the quality that the road was there
Okay,
at.
I'll be sending you my address. All right. And then the next question is, we're talking about 8 to 12 million right here, right now. That's the total. So if we were to decide, I say we because we're all part of the city, if you were to decide, but we put you where you are, so if we were to decide tonight to spend all 8 to 12 million on the roads, we're done, correct? With the current money. Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you.
Behind you?
Hi, my name's Erica Landman. I just have a question regarding, I know that the cost of materials are increasing. So let's say you determine you want to use 8 million, but then it ends up equaling 32 million. How do you go and cut down the least important part of your plan?
That's a great question. So I'll give you a little bit of context. When we prepared the facility condition assessment in 23, the cost estimates that were developed at the time had a 3% cost escalator, just assuming CPI would continue growing at a reasonable rate. That's clearly not been the case. We're actually experiencing about 8% on average. So Paul, who's sitting to my left, even though his name tag says Valerie, it's actually Paul. Paul is in charge of all the money in Public Works, and so he tracks all of these expenditures and helps us create a realistic estimate for today. The numbers that you see in the staff report today are our best estimate of what the cost of that work will be. We've made certain assumptions to develop that cost estimate, but that is a very big concern for us. We've experienced double-digit CPI increases over the last 5 years for road work alone. So, to the point made by the gentleman previously, it's incumbent upon us to move as quickly as we possibly can to make sure that we are able to complete the projects that we have identified and what council will direct us to. If we get to a place where we're off by a significant amount of money, then we've got to talk about reprioritizing other projects if it's still council's desire to move forward with the complete project list.
So it would be my understanding that today's budgeting is factoring in the difference between when it was first established and today, but also a little fudge factor for what it could be by the time the shovel gets to the ground? Great, thank you.
I know, I think the mayor had indicated that there'll be question opportunities later if there's
Yeah,
not,
we'll continue conversation. So tell you what, since we're at a moment of no more questions from the gallery, let's bring it back to council and have some discussion, and that may generate additional questions, all fairness. So I think we're not looking for solutions right here, but obviously comments or input and questions and things, and then we can formulate some direction maybe toward the conclusion. So Shauna, would you like to begin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, thank you everybody who is taking their time to be here. I really appreciate it. The participation and feedback from the community is, I think I can speak for all of us, and probably staff included, is welcomed. So we appreciate that you're here. Former Mayor Boyer brought up his first point that I don't think we addressed. He did have a question of whether or not we could actually facilitate more road work at the same time. Can someone speak to that? Because kind of curious on that.
I think part of the answer for that, I don't have an explicit answer for how we're going to do it, but it will involve relying on outside help. So, if you decided to give me $12 million today to work nothing on streets, I'm going to be on the phone with a few engineering firms tomorrow to say, I've got these projects, I need to get them done yesterday. How can we move forward as quickly as possible? And so we will rely, I should add a little bit of context to that statement. So currently we work with several engineering firms that are on contract with the city for streets work and or water work. Most of our in-house engineering staff is actually contracted out to a firm named Transtech. We're able to scale up the number of engineers that are available to us so that we can get more projects done. So we would be effectively contracting out a lot of that work to make sure that we get it done as quickly as possible. That happens also with all of the work. We would be contracting out the work to one of the many firms out there that can do roadway reconstruction.
Thank you, Moises. I also have some question, and I understand that the concept of taking, not necessarily addressing roads like worst first, but what's the balance? That's where I feel like I'm not, like my knee-jerk reaction, I love this chart, by the way. My knee-jerk reaction is to address the ones that are 36, 31. That seems like really low. 28. Is there, I mean, is it just like a case by case basis that we're going to have to look at that? Or is it there like an overall methodology that apply? I'm just, maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yes, we did sit down with our principal engineer and go through that, and we definitely do want to address some of these lower PCI streets. We want to make sure we get to them before they are at a failing point, which is why you see some that are very low there. And we will go back and reference our pavement management program update as well and take a look at the recommendations they made. There is a value of preventive as opposed to reconstructive and grind and overlay, and so we look at that as well. But we do have funds right now for our slurry that we do have in there, and we also utilize other funding opportunities such as the CDBG as well, which helps us do some preventive maintenance. And then again, tonight we are looking to do more grind and overlay and address some of those reconstructives, which is why most of your list is grind and overlay and more addressing some of those streets that are on the lower side, as well as main local or arterial collector streets that will provide benefits to the entire community.
I appreciate that, because I mean, honestly, and I've said it before as we've had this discussion, to me it's most important to really target streets that are going to have the maximum impact for the most amount of residents. I mean, the street I live on is terrible. It's not on this list, so, you know, I mean, just so people know, you know, like even us, you know, we don't all live on amazingly paved streets, and they aren't getting addressed in this discussion. But I do think it's important that our residents feel to the maximum extent possible where these dollars are being spent. So I like that we have this option to kind of pick and choose where we want to target that. So anyways, that, and I'll let the next person talk.
Okay, thank you, Shauna. Mendel.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. And I want to also say thank you for coming out and missing the Stanley Cup or whatever the soccer game is that you might want to be home. This is really an important thing. And you are some of the most important 50 people that live here. You really are, because you've taken your time, you've invested your mind, your heart, your soul. And so thank you for being here. And I appreciate that. One-time funds is a luxury, and those are usually kind of your last funds that you use. It's a bailout fund. And we are immensely blessed to be able to take a portion of our savings account. Reserves are what those are called, but you know, that's the language that Kyle and Adam use because they're number wonks. But this is a savings account. And we are, as I said, so blessed to be able to even think about taking the number that has been shared here. Cities around us, and even in Orange County, there's a major city down there that is a deficit, and they're taking funds to keep their bills paid. And cities around us are doing that. We are doing the opposite. We're taking funds to do some needed work. And it's because of each of us that we shop here and we support things here. The chamber does a great job of encouraging us to do that. We took the chance to vote in E and Z, keep the money here, and it has done extremely well. The crime rate is down 16.5 per cent, and that's because of all of the fiscal work that the council that are here now and previous ones have actually done. So this is a pretty rare treat for a city to say, hey, why don't we take some of our savings account and use it for things that we all think that we need. Thank you to the staff for a powerful PowerPoint. I'm an old guy. I'm 72. So history is really important because history shapes us. And I really hope that you took time to hear what Valerie said about some of the past. And as David said, we're not here to, rehash that. But the past has shaped us and formed us to be a city of really strength. And I just want to say thank you for enabling us to celebrate some of the successes that we as a city have had. And we don't talk about those a lot. The mayor gets up at the state of the city and does what the mayor should do and talk about those things. But that's about it. But this PowerPoint, I would urge you to go back and read it again and just see some of the incredible things that the city where you live, work, and play has actually done. And so I want to say thank you again to each one of you who gave this. The staff has given us some segments of roads, of which my street is not on here. I want to fully disclose that. In fact, I have a public beef to talk about my street. Half of my street was, done, but the part that I am on didn't get done. I don't know why. I show up, give them myself, but Adam, we need to talk about that,
drive
bro.
Down that street. So.
So, and that is absolutely true. But there are 21 streets here that staff has shared with us, and it was pretty simple for me to pick the ones that need to be done because they had a PCI of 28, 38, 37, 36, really, really low. And so I think, Mayor, we're in a while we're going to vote on some of these things, and it was pretty simple for me to say, let's fix the bad ones first. From a facility standpoint, we have a 42-page report. So this is what we do on like a Saturday when you might be going to the beach or to Disneyland. We're home like reading 42-page reports on facilities. And we're going to have a chance to, I think, vote on some of those things that we feel need to be fixed. And so I'm, just really looking forward to doing that. Lastly, I just feel that the workshops that are yet to come are equally as important as this one. And I really hope that you will be here, that you'll engage, and you don't have to wait until then. We're all out there. Our emails are out there. Our cell phones are out there. So if you're not one to stand up in front of 50 folks and talk, send us a note, and we will be more than happy to let you know where that issue stands and where it probably is going to go. So thanks once again for being here and taking time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mendel. Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Valerie, you did an amazing job on your presentation. I think you laid it out very, very well. I know it was quite a bit of work. Just for everyone in the audience to know, as what Mendel mentioned, over the weekend, we spent quite a bit of time, actually, for the last many, many days, a week or so. We have been working on this, I know that I have, and reading all the information. This right here is just only some of the attachments, not the 4,200 pages, if you will, of information. That's just some of the information that we've had to work with. And just for the facilities alone, there's over 200 items for us to pick from tonight, not even adding to the roads itself. And I am in favor of taking care of the worst first, and also some of the slurry coating as well. With that, I was joking, sort of, with staff about how we're going to, all five of us, land on the same items, which is going to be challenging. So I asked staff, are you going to give us a box of darts and throw it at a wall and see which sticks? And a little bit of pressure, and Adam did an amazing job, an absolutely amazing job, and probably one of the only compliments he's going to get from me for a while. Or ever. But Moises had to put a kibosh on that.
That's worth a plaque.
Worth a plaque. I'm not easy on these guys. And he did a really good job of listing all the different items and to put our names on there. So when we choose and pick these things, whatever item gets 3 or more votes is what they're going to work on, it's absolutely amazing. Which is really we're going to be voting on this here shortly. You all are going to get to see what's happening. But as Mendel mentioned, we are in a rare situation here. There are many cities, and Jack over there from the senator's office can attest to this, that are in worse cases. In fact, they're looking at layoffs, not actually helping with facilities or roads. They're actually laying people off, or going to have to do that because they just simply don't have the funds. We have right now $8 to $12 million to play with. Next year, we're going to probably have maybe another $8 to $10 million to some things coming through. We'll have to wait to see how that works out. There's others, if we want to go a little more aggressive, we could. I don't think we want to. We want to keep our AAA bond rating, which is very important to us, particularly Mendel over here since he's the banker of the group. But it's really important for us to do the right thing. And I've heard from a number of you folks from different areas of what's going on and what they would like to see happen. So just as a little fun note, the League of California Cities has a report out there for all of the PCI, the Pavement Condition Index, as far as how our roads are. And the average to that is about, 67% average for the state? 65. And we're at 63 right now. We're not very far from the average. We don't want to be average. We want to be better than average. But we live here, our kidneys feel the difference in the ways we go down the roads. And we want to make sure that we have some good roads for our folks and for us as well. None of the roads that here we have to sue are in my area for the most part, but it's where they need to be. I want to clarify, because I don't think it quite got answered. We have in our budget that we've approved a little over $5 million for roads in the 2-year budget that we have. We have planned in the future a lot, but beyond the general fund and some of the other funds that we have, how much money do we actually have to actually go into roads besides the $5 million?
Yeah, so a little bit of background. So when we're talking about that money, we're largely talking about capital funding addressed at improving the overall quality of those roads. Included in the 5.4 million is about $1 million of preventative maintenance, which is doing slurry seals and other things like that. As the chart showed, historically, the city has not had a lot of that capital funding. One of the things that we've really done this year or in previous years to expand on some of that work is when we combine the water and streets projects. We actually came to council a little over a year ago now and actually showed that the cost differential and cost savings actually that incurs when we do both projects together, shared mobilization costs, so on and so forth, have actually allowed us to stretch that funding a little further. We do have street crews. We do have some contractors that are providing some patch maintenance for some of the water repairs that are not included in that total right there that are helping with the preventative maintenance aspect. Don't have that total off the top of my head, but it's several $100,000 in staffing and equipment, if not a little over $1 million. That's also out there helping. Doesn't really improve the overall quality of life, maybe one less jolt in your car, but some of the potholes are temporary solutions. Some of the skim patches out there, which is like a larger Band-Aid, is also a temporary solution. So the focus of the council actually through the past several strategic plans is really to get roads done, redo those roads. Just wanted to make a quick note, and I appreciate the council's candor as to what's not on the street list. And I just wanted to make sure for those of you in the audience and the millions of people watching at home, and for those of you who may go in afterwards, is this. The streets here that were chosen are segments from the recent study that have not been done, A, recently, and B, are not part of a future water and streets project. We don't want to do that. We then selected roads that have, if you look at these on here, they're portions of Route 66, Grand Avenue, Juanita, Sunflower, Valley Center, Gladstone. These are larger areas where lots of people travel. And I just wanted to address one other thing, council member, that is quasi-related, which is we get a lot of phone calls for people about their own street and the residential, and trying to tell someone that the alligator street in front of their house that has been dead for 20 years is not going to get any more dead doesn't help the issue, especially when there's low traffic. And it's not because the city doesn't care, it's because it is wildly expensive to do some of those. So the focus this evening with the use of one-time funding was really to try to provide the council an opportunity to address some of those really difficult areas. As you pointed out, these require reconstruction, which is very expensive. And so to answer your question, council member, on how we do it, it's really a magic formula on how to try to extend the life of some and bring some up to par, so to speak. So this is really a unique opportunity where council can invest a portion of that 12 million and address areas that we would likely not ever get a chance to address. There was also mentioned in the staff report, and actually mentioned in the LA Times article, we get in 2002, it was like 6 times less funding from the state and federal level for street funding that occurred in the 1960s. Streets do not generate income. They're not income generating assets. And so the state and federal government provide even less funding for streets today, even though gas tax has gone up. The bang for our buck is less. So trying to capture some of those, but the 5.4 million, council member, is really new streets or like new streets.
Great. And so everything else projected in the future is simply that, a projection.
That's correct.
Great, thank you for that. So one last thing is, being as anal as I am sometimes, I took the PDF that we have with all the list of all the 200 plus the streets, but just the facilities, and I turned it into an Excel spreadsheet, checked off which ones I thought were most relevant, and basically without the library and the courtyard, which is taken out of this, it addresses about 50% of the facilities that were listed on this 200, roughly, give or take. So, it's a bit of an exercise. We'll see how all 5 of us vote on this moving forward. But it lasts many, many days. There's been a lot of work going on, I'm sure, by my colleagues as well as myself, trying to understand this and to move this forward, because this is not an easy task. You think, well, hey, you got all this money, it's Christmas time, but it entails a certain amount of labor and a certain amount of work, and having to follow the bouncing ball, because there's many different reports that we have to mix and match and find out which ones work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Karen, welcome.
Thank you. And again, thank you to everyone that took the time to be here tonight, and those that will watch it online as well. And thank you to staff. Valerie, I know that you had some apprehension about the length of your presentation, but you made it be very smooth, so thank you. Well, when you have extra money at home, you think, what's the most critical? If your roof is leaking, you want to fix that before it ruins everything else. And because we're not talking about the library tonight, then we have to look at other things and what's the most important in terms of life and safety issues And of course, you know, a lot of our attention comes back to the streets because we all travel that. And it's been said by my colleagues that we want to make sure that how we spend this impacts the most people because it's your money. And streets, for the most part, is something that we all benefit from and enjoy. And then the other thing is looking at those places in terms of facilities that touch the most lives. Because many of the new housing projects that are being built or will be built have smaller yards or no yards, I think looking into the future, our public spaces in terms of parks and our canyon and our trails, those are going to be important because those are going to be resources that many of our current and future residents are going to enjoy. So I think looking at some of those facility projects will have an impact on a wide variety of people because it will improve their quality of life. Looking at the streets, it would be great to say, yeah, let's do all of this right now, but trying to prioritize, I appreciate that you had Route 66 on here because it's turning 100 years old. So what a great birthday gift. We'll pave part of the street, say happy birthday. And so I think parts of that street are the worst, maybe looking at those in terms of where people travel the most. Juanita, there's parts of that I think my colleague and his Porsche would definitely have to get some alignment done afterwards.
I'd fall in one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing on parts of Valley Center. So I think there are segments that as we look at that we could hopefully maybe decide on that, and then looking at some of those facilities. And I think also in looking at some of the projects that we want to make sure that it has the biggest bang for the buck, but then also what are some of those projects that can improve quality of life for our employees? Because the residents cannot get served well if the employees are working in conditions that don't have HVAC or have other things that keep you from being able to do the quality of work that we would expect. So I think a little bit of all of that mix is going to be important in how we decide to spend this money. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I believe Shauna had another comment.
A question. On Valley Center, what is the, I think that's a dividing line between us and San Dimas. Where does that, is that like in the middle of the street? Is it on the side? Like, how does that work if we're talking about repairs to Valley Center?
I don't think that is the line of demarcation there. In some areas, you go over to Amelia, for example. So similar on our eastern and western borders, the line, as you indicated, moves in and out. But I think any street segment here would be 100% wholly in the city. Great question.
Great, thank you. And Tim Moore, I'll go out on the ledge, taking to qualify your question and not including the streets or water project. A small 250 would probably cover it. Okay. I think he is. He's an investor. He knows people. I follow again. I applaud and thank staff immensely for the weeks of work they've done, even in their own time when they're theoretically not on the clock. They've been poked at. So thank you for accepting that and doing this Herculean job. I too want to look at projects that will benefit our people-facing services and the facilities that we use the most, along with driving on streets is important, but I think a large measure to facility improvements and the things that people realize and guests come to use to come to Glendora. Believe it or not, our number one rental facility is the American Legion Hall. And if there's some love needed there to spark that up, that's only a small investment to keep that place even busier. So things like that, to me, in my mindset, makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to want to look at that. beyond that, I think many of the comments have been shared, and I don't want to repeat all that. But I will ask, is there anyone in the audience wishing to, is there anything that generated another question or comment? Mr. Boyer and Mr. Barron, fair enough. We don't charge more than twice as much for each second question, so that's good.
To be able to use that to identify where the needs might be.
Great question. So when we completed the facility condition assessment, we a firm went to every single one of our facilities and evaluated every single one of its components. So based on kind of the assessment for that facility, they ranked the highest priorities based on need. So it is scored in a way. What we have as the attachment to this report is basically the highest priority needs over the next 4-year period. So these are the highest of priorities in that 20-year plan. These are the ones that we need to address in the next 4 years. So it only totals $10.5 million. I say that tongue in cheek, but it's a much more measurable and realistic glance at what we need to fix first, so that we kind of make a data-driven decision about it.
Barron.
So one question regarding street improvements. If it was suggested, hey, invest all the available funds in street improvements, but someone mentioned that maintenance is very key to long-term performance of the street. So in that process of allocating dollars for street improvements, is there an automatic kind of percent allocation to the maintenance budget for those streets? So that's my first question. The second one was, I wanted to address to Council Member Alawas. Did I understand you to say that if you look at all the facility projects and all the money was allocated to do those facility projects, that you could do half of them, get half of them done? Or did I misunderstand that?
Let me try to answer that one really first and then turn it over to the council member. So as Moises mentioned, in the packet this evening is 10.5 of a $50 million cost over the next 20 years. So of that 10 million, if we don't include the facility we're in tonight and the public works yard, which we will talk about next week, I don't know what the council member is going to recommend. But it sounds like his recommendation or the things that he's leaning towards will cover about half of that remaining amount. So half of 10 million less about, I think it's like 2.5 million in the 10 million that's allocated for this building and the public works yard. And because those are topics of conversation for the next meeting, it sounds like those weren't included. But I didn't want to mess that up. And I don't know what your recommendations are, so I guess now's your...
He has an advantage. We talked about this earlier, so we came up with the number together on percentage, so he's absolutely correct. But also to add to that, on our report here, we have immediate needs, to Gary's thing about priorities, and it shows on here a number for immediate needs for different facilities. And some of them don't have immediate needs, and it also goes anywhere from 1 to 2 years up to 20 years on our report here, and it has a number to it. So we can look at what's typically, it's the first, I believe, 3 items that are on here, which is the projected need for the next, I guess, until 2030 to 2030. So that's kind of the basis that we went off of. I'm working on this and making selections. At least that's how I went and looked at this. Did that answer your question? Well, with what I did, which you'll see here shortly, is that I basically allocated around $4 million in my model for facilities, which is about 50% of the way if you take out the library and the courtyard, which is our big animals, and the rest for me is going to streets, which I've selected. But then also to Gary's question about the immediacy of the needs of the facilities, it pretty much lays it out for us if it's an immediate or not. And this gets us to 2030. Yes, there's more that we need to do in the future, but at least this gives us a big gap between now and then, 4 years, 3.5 years, whichever you want to call it.
I would just add, the truth of the matter is on the facility assessment, there are some facilities that would take every last dollar that we have here tonight and we still couldn't get there, right? And those are some of the out years that we've talked about when we tried to buy ourselves time. To answer your other question about maintenance, we didn't forget this time. There is an option in the consideration for council this evening that does talk about additional allocation of more maintenance. In a perfect world, yes, there'd always be a portion of maintenance, but that's not the world in which we live in. And so we've tried through some of the internal restructuring to add additional maintenance dollars to the budget, about $1 million more than we had in 2018. But we don't, I wish we could allocate more, and that is one of the options, though, the council will talk about this evening, is potentially adding additional maintenance funds as part of this $12 million.
I'll also add to that, kind of more globally to your question about, I'll just use reconstruction versus maintenance. Because of the condition of our overall streets network, we're more reliant on the need for reconstruction or repaving of streets versus maintenance. The more we can reconstruct, well, obviously that balance will adjust itself. So if we increase the level of the PCI score, then we're going to be by necessity investing a lot more on maintenance to make sure that we keep that score as high as possible for a longer duration of time. It's simply much more cost effective for us to maintain a street than it is to rebuild it. The figure that Valerie showed in her presentation was for every $1 of investment in maintenance, that could prevent $6 to $10 in reconstruction down the line. So it will eventually rebalance itself. It's just at this point we're more focused on repaving, reconstruction, because that's where the need lies. Yeah. Absolutely.
Mr. Antonese.
I want to thank you, first of all, for having the forum again and for the work that has gone clearly behind the scenes as this has gone on. I had the privilege of being a part of the Citizens Committee that raised the stir about this and was able to go on the tours of these facilities, and they were just mind-blowing for someone that's been in facility management for a lot of years, that the city runs so well on such limited facilities for our staff members. So I don't want to lose sight of this, and I know that there's future events planned, that this is a large ticket item that we keep pushing off, and we've put off for 26 years, I think, or so. And I just don't want us to lose gaze of that. And I don't think you are, but I just want to be the person that at least says it out loud, that the streets improvement, vital, really important, especially as we get new citizens in our community. We want them to be able to get around. But on the other hand, we also want to be able to serve them. And I want to be able to bless our employees by giving them facilities that are at least 2,000 to the standards of the year 2000 or so. So and I joke, of course, but thank you for allowing us to have some speak to this a little bit.
On behalf of employees, we thank you for those comments.
Thank you very much. Any other questions in the audience?
Hi, my name is Terry Merrick. I think so my first question is just why we decided to wait and talk about the library and the facilities next time. And I assume it's because the amount of money we're talking about here just wouldn't make a difference. But so I just wanted to confirm that. Okay.
That's correct.
Head shaking.
It would dent the solution.
So yeah, that's what I figured. The second question is on when it says top priorities for the city that we want streets, is that question disaggregated for, we want pavement, we want sidewalks, do we know more what it is that the citizens actually want with these street repairs?
So a little bit to that. So the city, one of the things the city's done for a long time, which is actually wonderful, is since 2011, we've done a community survey. And we asked a lot of the same questions over and over again so we can have measurable impact. One of the questions is open-ended, and it says this: if we could do any one thing to improve quality of life in Glendora, what would that one thing be? And it's open-ended, and those things are gathered. So streets and roads come as an amalgamation of different answers about streets and roads. So whether it's sidewalks versus bike lanes, we don't know. It's just mentioned streets and roads. But it shows up so frequently that it truly is the one thing outside of some years of I don't know and everything's fine, or provide more shopping, but streets and roads has continually done. And in fact, as we mentioned in one of the slides, as Valerie presented, the percentage of people happy with streets and roads that we ask about specifically later on as a standing item, 8% of our population is less thrilled than they were 2 years before that. The largest dip of any category. In fact, quality of life, when we go back through the reports, has this softening of quality of life. And 84% good to excellent is great. But it has been a slight softening. And whether that had to deal with COVID or other things is anyone's best guess. But the thing that we do know is as the public's view on streets and roads has gone down, it has softened the overall interpretation of quality of life. So,
Is there any way of getting more information about, is it the sidewalks? What exactly is it? Do we know how we could get that information?
We would have to ask those questions to get a much more precise answer. I can share with you that when we work on streets projects, what we call a street project, we're actually looking at all of it. We're looking at the road for sure, but we're also taking an opportunity to fix whatever sidewalk deficiency exists to make sure it's compliant with ADA. We look at the street signs to replace those. That's a program that we have on an ongoing basis. So we try to take as comprehensive a look as possible. So that when we are working in that particular area, we address all of those needs. I think to have a more global conversation about mobility in our community, and I'm going to touch on a nerve, I'm sure, by saying this, but e-bikes have become an issue of critical concern for our community, and so that's something that the council has tasked us with returning, I think, to the next council meeting, which is next week, with an ordinance and kind of a regulatory structure to govern that. More globally, taking a step back, we've started officially the general plan update. Our general plan document is a comprehensive land use planning document for us, a critical component of which is a circulation element, where we look at mobility issues more broadly. And I think that's an excellent opportunity for us to be able to engage with our community about what we want to see. We spend a lot of time talking about cars because we spend a lot of time in cars. But that's not always how we get from point A to point B. We have, vehicles, we have buses, we have bicycles, we have e-bikes, we have golf carts, we have pedestrians. I mean, the right-of-way is intended to accommodate those to the best of our abilities in the safest manner possible. And so I think we can have a more global conversation in that sense.
and I would just add to that, the city has made investments above and beyond normal street repairs. For example, when we lost access off of to our public works yard when the gold line went in and everyone had to come off a compromised line, we actually worked with the community and added a new sidewalk on that street. Additionally, on Bennett Avenue, across from the middle school and Lefetre Elementary School, we worked with the neighborhood to add a sidewalk on the south side of that street as well, widen the street and add different bike lane and sharrows, which I know are not always popular, but a sharrow is for bike and cars to share the same area. But we do those things in addition and try to work as best we can with the community, and oftentimes the council members are out there with us meeting, which is excellent. So, anyone have any other questions? I will run over there, ma'am. I will run. I'm coming. All right, here you go.
We'll come back.
Good. Oh, go ahead and just.
Okay. I'm Irene Scott, and I live here in Glendora almost 50 years, and certainly I do see the difference in quality of life. We are having so many new developments around our areas, and they all come with gates in and beautiful $1 million homes and so, but I cannot drive through their streets to get it closer to the main street, but they can always use my street. And so the builder is building now, and they do their streets up where the development ends. And then they leave the rest of the street going through to our street. They leave it potholes and they do sidewalks, but we don't get it. My question is, can't you do something, say, okay, if you build there, you got to do the whole street? Because all the trucks are going through and they are ripping up the streets, but they only do that part where their development ends and starts. And I think that's so unfair. And I wondered if there's anything you can do about it. The city, I know you don't have any more building restrictions, like now they're building on a lot 3 more houses, and that also brings more traffic in. And I think that's why we live there. We want that quality, or at least the life, the quiet life, which is taken completely, but the streets, that bugs me, really.
You know, I think that we don't disagree, but I think maybe Jessica can lean in on that from a property legality perspective of what we're able to.
Moises, do you want to talk really quickly about development?
What we're able to obligate the developer to do.
Well, that's the hardest question of the night so far, so have fun.
That is a hard question. In fact, I joked with her if we wanted to cite case law in the response, and I think for everyone's benefit, we should avoid that. But so when a new residential development is proposed and it gets approved by the city, we evaluate that project's impact on the surrounding neighborhood. What we can require of them, absent a specific development fee, which I'll get back to in just a minute, is limited. So when an improvement goes in, they are required to upgrade the equipment or upgrade the facilities and infrastructure to be able to serve the community that they're building. So that sometimes means that they are making improvements in the roads beyond the scope or beyond their property, so long as there's a direct connection to the benefit in that particular area. We cannot actually ask them to repave, 3 other streets in their immediate vicinity. That's just something the law does not allow us to do. There are some communities where development impact fees are added to projects, so there's a complicated way of calculating it, but effectively you pay for the impact of that community and those residences on the surrounding neighborhood. In Glendora, historically, we have not had development impact fees. That's not a new thing. It's been decades long. We have, in fact, I can think of 2 right off the top of my head. One is for parks. We have a development impact fee for parks. And the second was added by council for public art. Outside of that, there really is no other mechanism to generate revenue to help offset some of those development-related impacts.
Hold on a second. Let's get to the microphone so the folks at home can hear us too.
So I came to the city several times and asked, what can I do on the street? Can I, because I own, I guess, half of that. Can I put a sign up, no trucks allowed? Can I do that? They had no answer. They said I probably would pay more for a lawyer than what it's worth. That's what they told me. But I think it's a shame that we have to live there that way and they can do whatever they want. And then they patch up a little bit because our street is all old. We have old pipes and the water will run for a day and 2 till it's fixed. Who's paying for that water? But then they fix that little patch. Couple months later, another little patch and another little patch. So why don't you do that all at once? Wouldn't that save you more money than patch, patch, patch?
The short answer to your question is yes, it would save us money.
And if you tell us where you live, we'll tell you if there's a project coming.
Exactly. We can actually talk about that a little bit after. But yes, so one of the things, and I'll probably delve into this a little bit more, but we experience between 250 and 300 water leaks a year. That's millions of gallons of water lost as a result of that, right? So part of the reason that we try to be very methodical about prioritizing our biggest needs is precisely that. We want to make sure that we're addressing our weakest pipelines as quickly as possible. Even under the best of circumstances, things still happen. A few weeks ago, at the intersection of Amelia and Country Club, a pipe that was installed in the mid-1960s quite literally exploded and lifted up the entire street. For all intents and purposes, our assessment did not identify that as a high priority water line, but things happen. And so we try to be responsive to those needs as possible, but we are working with our water staff to make sure that we're as responsive as possible, not just to repair the water leak, but also to fix the patch, right? Because we cut into the asphalt. Our water staff does a temporary patch. We actually have a contractor come back and do kind of a more permanent repair to prevent the dipping and making sure that the asphalt lasts a little bit longer.
That's all right. We want everyone at home to hear you, Mike.
Not a question.
All right.
I just got to say two things. On our street, we had frequent, repetitive water leaks. And ultimately, the city did come in and do that combo project. They replaced the water main. They reconstructed the street. It's been great since then. And so, so I just got to tell you that they do follow their own rules, and you'll see something done when it becomes one of the top rated problems. And the second thing was when that break, the exploded main line, I think, what was that, a 12-inch line? That they rotated crews and worked all through the night, all through the early morning, and got the water back just quicker than I thought they would, and that was very impressive. So I just want to say, because I've been a critic of some of the things that the city council does, but when they do something, when the city does something really good, you got to give them credit, and so they did something really good twice in my neighborhood. so thank you.
Yay.
And if I could, I'm going to embarrass him, but Paul Zampiello, who is our Assistant Public Works Director for water, so he oversees the water utility, is sitting in the back. Paul, raise your hand. If you've got any questions about our water infrastructure, only compliments is what he's taken. But
He also lives in town, so he takes it very personal.
Exactly.
So, does anyone else have a question? Yes, sir. And we'll come over here.
Thank you. My name is Peter Scott. My question is of more general nature. Watching this discussion here and the presentation, it seems that the facilities maintenance can has been kicked down the road for the last 20 years or so. Is that because the city simply doesn't have the income stream to maintain the facilities that were built? And secondly, beyond this one-time infusion, what's the future outlook for maintaining our facilities? Do we need, nobody wants to pay more taxes. Well, what's going to be the deficit? Where's the money going to come from?
Valerie, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So what we did mention is that we are taking a new approach to how we address facilities. For a long time, we did not have a dedicated facilities division. And so a lot of the needs went unaddressed. And so within the last several years, I believe in 2018, we did go ahead and develop a facilities division. So we now have a supervisor, a lead worker, and staff that are trying to focus more on preventive maintenance and address the needs that are in the facility assessment as well as a preventative measure, so that we can currently start addressing those before they start to get worse. So we are addressing it, taking a new approach with the facilities division in place, where 75% of their time is intended to be addressing preventive maintenance.
Well, so Peter, you ask a great question, and we went through a year of citizens initiative exploring opportunities that proved to not be a popular direction, and the workshops came about because an excellent question. Well, if not that, what? Okay, so we're trying to determine the what. So we're looking at the utilization of one-time fund opportunities that we've identified, the future, what's after that, or what comes next to prevent 20 years down the road being in this position. Well, that's what some of the other workshops are going to explore and figure out, where are we going? we don't have that answer yet, or we might have, done that a cycle or two ago. But so we're learning, trying to discover. Okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Carol Ann, and this has been enlightening, amazing, and I'm looking forward to going online and looking at what's there. But I'm wondering, the packets that you're talking that you have that have things broken out, is that available to the public
Yes,
as
ma'am.
well? That'll be on the site
If you
that
look
we
at
can
if
see?
you look at this meeting
Yeah.
on the website, and the agenda packet is there, you can see all of the attachments and all the information, and
Perfect.
more reading than you cared to have, I'm sure.
Well, I think a lot of times frustration comes from just not having knowledge, and if it's there and people can look at it, it helps.
It'll make War and
Calm the
Peace look
beast down.
exciting. Mr. Barrett in the back.
Okay, coming, Marty. I'm coming. I'm going to get all my steps in today.
So I'm glad you asked that last question, because I went to the agenda and the agenda is 4,000 pages. Where is that PCI? Because I don't want to go through 4,000 pages looking for that.
There are different attachments, A through S, and you can pick those attachments and find them, and they'll give you some of those particular items.
At the end, or, I mean, like I said, I just went through it. The PDF is 4,000 pages and I didn't see
When you
anything for
click on the agenda link, then it has a table of contents, and it will say, attachment this is this, and one of them says PCI, and you can find it.
So I probably won't be able to do it on my phone, then I'll have to do it on a computer, I guess.
Yeah, you can do it on your phone as well. So there are quite a number of attachments on this because it's been a topic of conversation. But if you want to focus on the specific packets that the council members have been referring to in terms of the streets being proposed or under consideration, as well as the facility improvements. So the streets are listed in attachment S, proposed street segments and estimated PCI impact is the name of it. It's actually, if you scroll down to the bottom of the report, you can click on that directly. Or the facility projects are under attachment P. Facility condition assessment recommended maintenance by facility with detail for 2026 through 2030.
And just a shameless plug, if any of you wanted to look at the entire PCI report, that is actually on the city's website under capital projects, and there's actually a breakdown and a list of every single street segment in the entire city, if you're curious on the quality of your street and how it ranks.
Okay.
And there's
And
lots
also
of folks
just
in this room too that can help. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yes, we do
Can
have
help
lots
right
of
now.
staff.
Okay, good.
And also a shameless plug, please, if you have questions, ask them. I promise you there's a ton of information online and on the website, but if you have any questions, please call. If you call the city's main line, for example, you'll get a live body 6 days a week. Our library staff actually answers the main line, which is why we have staff 6 days a week. So please ask questions. We're happy to help you find the answer.
I'd like to bring it back, if I may. The council has some additional questions and comments, so we can do that. Shauna, please take it away.
Thank you. Another quick question. So on the street segments, how is it logical that we would like pick and choose within a street? So like Route 66, I mean, that's $8 million, but I feel like we have to choose the whole thing, because if you don't, it's like some is nice, then some is not, then some is nice, then some is not. Like what are the logistics behind how we're choosing streets, for example? Do we need to choose the whole thing? Is it best to choose the whole thing? Help me out.
So ultimately, we will do whatever the council directs us to do.
And I know you will, but I want your just a really
Sure.
honest, honest answer on like what is the best thing to do, because what I don't want to have happen is piecemeal it and then it looks terrible and feels terrible. Like if it's just that we need to do the whole thing, fine. But I just want to know like what's the best practice.
Yeah, but the reason we presented it by segment was precisely to give the council the ability to fix at least a portion of the street based on need. So using Route 66 as an example, addressing all of the street's needs is a significant allocation of resources and kind of limits your ability to fund other initiatives or other facilities if that's the council's desire. And so we wanted to make sure that we at least did it by segment, recognizing that there are going to be segments of streets that are going to be better post-improvement versus what the existing condition is. Generally speaking, it would be ideal if they were more geographically clumped. And the reason I say that is when we bring in a contractor, they need to mobilize. So they need to be able to bring in their equipment, do their traffic controls, and put their equipment out in the street so that they can repair it while the street remains open. Closing down Route 66 is not an option for us. And so we need to do the work kind of bit by bit. So if we can work in one geographical location, that saves us a little bit of time and money from a mobilization and traffic management perspective. That isn't to say that you couldn't identify portions of Route 66 or do portions of Grand or do portions of Sunflower, but to the extent possible, more geographically concentrated work is a little bit easier for the contractors.
I like the idea of just doing the whole thing. Unfortunately, but Route 66 is bookended by like really terrible streets on either end. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. Mendel.
Thank you, Mayor. On the exhibits, Karen was right. It's on the left-hand side, and they're exhibits from A to T. And the streets are Exhibit S. And in just a little bit, there are 21 parts of this that totals $18,175,000. On the other side of the coin is Exhibit P, facilities, and that totals 10.5 million. So quick math is the heavy lift that you will see in just minutes away. We have to parcel out between 8, 12 million. I'm going to advocate for 12, but we have to advocate, or we have to parcel out 12 from the 28.6 million. That's the heavy lift that the 5 of us have got to do to then let staff know what they need to do. So it's not an easy lift. There's a lot of stuff there. To answer you, Mike, yes, we could do all of this street stuff because it's 10.5 million. So, oh no, I'm sorry. 10.5 is buildings. So Gary, yes, we could do all of this. The lowest one is $464. The highest is $852,000. That's painting. So if there's some people in here that love to paint, we have some little rooms that we just need to have painted. So, that's it. All right? Thank you. Michael.
Okay, Michael?
Just to clarify, on the list that you gave us of recommended streets, you've already paired that with water, correct?
No,
I thought that was what you had mentioned earlier.
No, our overall strategy typically when we've been fixing up streets is that we match it with a water project. That adds a level of time and complexity to a particular project. So the list that we've compiled is we evaluated the highest needed streets that don't have an immediate need for water. That way we can, a water impact is not for the distant future.
Did you also look at, as Sean had mentioned, as far as the mobilization effort from the streets on the recommendation?
I would just add on that front, we had mentioned earlier, these are large segmentations of larger areas, so this would be helpful when we're doing it if they were doing a specific area. I would just add to that comment, though, as the council goes about its negotiations, and let's say there's a street segment that's like a stretch, we could always try to issue a bid for a larger project, but have them bid in segments and see how much of that work we can get done too. So I don't want us to be, stuck in that little box too. Staff's willing to do a little more work to try to get a larger bid to see how many of those street segments we can get done too.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Going back to the question about the library, why we bifurcated this, we also are working with our Senator Perez to see if we can get back some of our taxpayer money. Jack, raise your hand. He's working to try to get us about $10 million for next fiscal's budget with the government. And we have a draft, I believe, of an ask, and we're working to finalize that. So hopefully we can take that up to about somewhere around $10 million or so. We don't know exactly just as yet. We're working to see if we can take care of the facility here, which will reduce our overall needs for cash, which is very helpful. So this next year is going to be very important for us to push that narrative, to get that money in here to help us with our overall needs. Thank you.
Okay. Any other, Karen?
I was just going to follow up on that question about, for instance, Route 66. Let's say, you know, the two bookends that are the worst and maybe a few other spots there. If in between we did just a slurry seal, you know, where maybe the PCI is a little bit higher, would that be another way to lessen that cost and get some more out of it? Or is that structurally a bad procedure?
Well, specific to Route 66, I think our recommendations are that it's not in a condition where it would benefit from slurry seal. There are segments of other streets that where we recommend slurry seal versus a 2-inch grind and overlay.
Mm-hmm.
So Route 66's condition, it's not in the score criteria that would benefit from slurry seal.
I was just trying to think in some of those areas where the score was a little higher, if we could stretch that money just a little bit more. Okay, thanks. That's it.
I should also point, not all of the segments are the same size either, just because of where we kind of evaluated the score and the highest amount of need for those segments. So, you know, the compromise line to Cataract is 485,000 square feet versus, you know, Grand to Vermont on Route 66 is only 93,000 square feet. So there's some variability there.
Okay. If you would all indulge us for a moment. Oh, by the way, Mr. Arton, for the senator, the $120 billion train to nowhere, just think how many projects like this could get fixed if we stop building that. Never mind. Yeah, there you go.
Don't we'll take 25. I'll take 25 million.
And classic coffee's on us. So that's if you'll indulge us, I'd like to recess for about 15 minutes to allow the council to go through an exercise on a survey that you might get to see some results of immediately. And after all your input and the information before us, make some choices that should offer some direction to staff for the next step. So let's recess for about 15 minutes and we'll be back. Thank you. Wow, okay. Thank you for all you brave souls to hang out for the true results and see where we're at. So let's get a little drum roll and get a report out from our survey. Thank you.
Before you will be pulling up an Excel file, we made an attempt to have a public-facing website that would be easily changeable, and turns out we could enter one at a time, but not all of them. So the Excel file we're going to bring up here. Here we go. So every council member under the tabs here, streets and facilities, selected various items. This final summary tab shows any item that has 3 or more votes on it. It's a total of 10.1 million. On the initial blush, the council's in agreement on 7.35 million on roads, 2.84 million on facilities. If all of these were implemented over the next 18 months or so, the PCI would increase to 65.61. That's the net, so a net increase potentially of a little more than 3. Obviously, we have some other projects planned, but also the overall system will go down. But the projects that are included to your left, those segments that council looked at were Route 66. The segments were Barranca to Grand, Pasadena to Elwood, and Compromise Line to Cataract. On Juanita Avenue, there's 2 segments. Glendora Avenue to San Dimas, Bonnie Cove to Sunflower. Sunflower Avenue is Arrow Highway to Juanita. And then, on Sunflower Avenue, Arrow Highway to Juanita. Valley Center was Arrow Highway to Juanita as well. Boy, Seth is trying to make it difficult. And then we have more than 3 options for additional slurry seal program, and $500,000 will have another impact. On the facilities, there is agreement on a lot of the big Dalton Canyon facilities, campground restrooms, as well as the day camp restrooms. Is Annie back there? Annie's smiling back there. She's very excited. If you don't know, that's our new director of Recreation and Human Services. We also have Big Dalton Canyon, more of it, bus plaza, lighting area, restroom building and lighting, library, police station, HVAC for the police station, and replacement of a generator. The teen center, roof replacement, exterior paint, and parking lot striping and repair. We have agreement on the tennis complex, additional parking lots there. And then the Finkbeiner Park facilities, American Legion Hall, exterior paint, interior paint, HVAC. If you're keeping score, Annie's winning so far. Finkbeiner Park, we got Lob Field Snack Bar, repair the foundation, and that is it for there. If we go through the individual, can we go to the streets tab really quick? Can we scroll? Can we make this a little smaller? We scroll over there. Okay. So, in case you're looking at the actual selections here on Route 66, we have 2 votes for the Glendora Avenue to Pasadena segment of Route 66. Can you scroll down further? We have 2 votes on Route 66 for Hunter's Trail to Compromise Line. Scroll down, please. We have 2 votes for the Juanita Avenue from San Dimas Wash to Bonnie Cove. We also have 2 votes on Juanita Avenue from Sunflower to Valley Center. We have 2 votes on Sunflower between Juanita Avenue to Gladstone, and then Gladstone to the 210 freeway. And those are the segments with 2 votes. Depending on the amount of one-time funding, the council's already on agreement of 10+ million, which quite frankly was more of the original agreement than we thought. It's pretty remarkable. And we can move to the facilities really quick to see if there's any 2 votes to help. Wow. Annie's feeling the love back there, big time. That's crazy. If you scroll down right here, I'm just looking for some 2s really quickly here. Okay, we got 2 for Centennial Heritage Park for the storage and shed replacement. We have 2 for Old Chamber of Commerce toilet replacement. I know Joe's still hanging out. Joe's a big advocate for another vote there. We got 2 votes for HVAC replacements on City Hall. 2 votes for the police station electrical panel upgrades. And 2 votes for Dawson Park resurface the courts. We have lots of 2 votes for Finkbinder Park as it relates to the band shell and Liberty House. Additionally, snack bar to do the rest of the snack bar areas, not just the foundation, but other improvements for the snack bar. We have 2 votes for the youth center to repair the exterior walls, and then lots of 2 votes on the youth center from HVAC to interior paint, exterior paint. 2 votes for Gladstone Park to paint some of the interior for some of the bathrooms, for hand dryers, replacement of the parking lot. 2 votes for the Historic Society for a variety of items from wood windows, exterior, interior paint upgrades. 2 votes for Louis Pompey maintenance shed to help replace the foundation. 2 votes for Louis Pompey snack bar interior paint. A variety of Parks Yard upgrades, including interior paint and lighting. Recreation Human Services, we have the garage that's in the back, some roof replacement and interior paint. Some South Hills Park asphalt restriping for the park there, as well as Recreation Human Services parking lot improvements as well. So if the council's looking to increase that 10 million higher, there are quite a few 2 vote items that are there. So Mayor, yeah. You guys can, it's an open discussion. You can hear boos from the audience if they're still so choose. We can open it up. Council, Mayor, I'll leave it up to you if you want to have a dialogue with your colleagues on if there's anyone that wants to look at this further. Well, so let's go to the final summary page right here. Scroll up. If you're within the window here, if you want to go to 12 million, you're essentially 1.8 million away. Can you go to the streets tab? We'll start there. Yeah. For those of you who are not colorblind like I am, if it's not in green, there's not 3 votes. Mayor, if I may, is the consensus of the council to go to 12 million?
I see 4, so.
Okay. The consensus is 12 million. So you have 1.8 million.
I strongly feel like we should spend that money on Route 66. It's a highly traveled road. The maximum amount of people in our city are going to be using that road. Come on, gentlemen.
Did we fund the LaFetra Center Foundation?
Yeah, I'd like to see
Sure.
some of the facility.
Okay.
Curiosity there.
Let's do it. Moises will drive on the spreadsheet here. LaFetra.
Wait. Don't. Yes, I'd like to check some of my work here.
I want to see the foundation. That we voted for that.
By the way, the item 16, the retaining wall at the restroom, Annie can tell me which wall that is, but I think it's the one I nearly died from heat stroke on building with Boy Scouts out of rock. I ain't going anywhere. But okay.
At number, it's 153 on the.
I just want to make sure we didn't have, okay. There were residents there and I didn't want anything and I don't see it, so that's good. West Plaza, all right. Did we go, can we go back to the Chamber of Commerce thing? Yes, well, don't go back and forth, just cruise through the line. And nobody wants to make our Chamber of Commerce in the middle of our business district look good?
The mayor's commenting on the Chamber of Commerce. You just passed it.
Scroll up.
Right there.
Right there.
Joe's very interested in this conversation.
It's got one potty and a little paint. Okay.
But did we check off the foundation for La Fetra?
We'll get there.
That.
All right. We'll jump forward. We're going to make everyone seasick by the end of this, so my
I was trying to
apologies.
not do that, but
Everything for La Fetra looks like it got funded. Yeah. Any other facility you'd like us to take a look through really quick for your conversation, Mayor?
the Legion Hall, that was all favorable, but
I think it's alphabetical order. I think we got to go down. Oh, it's under Finkbeiner. Sorry. Thank you, Paul.
112 through 115.
good. 'Cause that's a very forward-facing facility.
Back to roads.
Everybody good with facilities?
Did the chamber?
All right, we'll go.
Bucket of paint.
We'll go back to the chamber. Mayor, any other facility would you like us to revisit right now?
The chamber had air conditioning on there. Is that a desperate unit?
Works.
Work? Just another minute till I jinx it, and that's
That item received 0 votes.
Oh, I didn't think it was.
Good.
I don't see him standing outside in the daytime working, so. I won't say that the door lock doesn't work, but that's, don't tell anybody.
Well, there is an option. We can add items on this list.
There's a pit bull on the inside if you want to go check the door lock. So.
Are we good with facilities?
Yes, let's go to roads.
Can I get a verbal confirmation from all of you?
Yes, we like the facilities. Thank you.
Yes?
I'm not sure because I haven't seen what's to and lacking.
We can go through that again.
Close twos.
Are there
All twos are close.
What's a close to?
are there difference
I
between
mean,
twos?
I mean, if it's like air. That
Centennial Heritage has 2 votes. This is for replacing the roof of the storage shed.
pass.
Okay.
Go to roads.
Hold on. We need to do this because we're only going to do this once.
Sure.
The Old Chamber of Commerce replaced the toilets. That has 2 votes.
I can pass.
Okay.
Not a Freudian slip.
For City Hall, HVAC replacements.
Is it a flusher or a pit? I mean,
Well, see, I think that's important because that's a quality of life thing for
We
employees.
want
Sure.
staff to be able to work.
Councilmember, you did not vote for it.
He did.
I apologize. You did. You did. I apologize.
I did vote for it.
I
Thank
apologize.
you.
because I.
Can we get
It would have been
staff?
better if you hadn't.
Staff.
Yeah.
So,
And Sean and I appreciate the hard work, sweat and tears of our staff.
Yes.
But the HVAC works at City Hall, does it not?
No, it needs to be replaced.
There are some significant upgrades to HVAC that
There-
are needed.
there-
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's 194.
Yeah, okay. So
that would
do I have
require.
any support
That
for
would require another council member to add their voice to that.
Fine, I'll add it. Can
There
we
you
go to
go.
roads?
That's the spirit.
We thank you.
So you have $1 million basically left for roads, right? No, let's see what else. I mean, there could be some big ones left.
Replace the electric panel at the police station.
That might be important.
Yeah, that.
Well,
I mean,
Mr. Thompson, you did not vote for this one.
Is,
Well-
okay, wait, is that going to be required with the air conditioner upgrade and a generator change? A lot of times those, one mandates the other.
right.
These are itemized all separately, so.
Understand, but that could become a consequence of the other two.
That's correct, David.
Also plan for it, it's gonna.
Okay.
What's that cost?
98,000.
I would need an affirmative vote for Mr.
Yeah,
Alwas,
it's
Mr.
98.
Freehouse, or Mr.
Yeah.
Thompson.
Okay. Do we still want to look at facilities or do we want to go to streets?
Go to roads. Run out of money.
I just need everybody to say yes.
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 No.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Thompson says no. The
There
next,
could be some significant things here.
We just need 3 to say
Yeah.
yeah. Yes.
No. So, what are those two there?
that is resurfacing of the courts at the Dawson Park Tennis Complex.
Oh, yes, go for it.
That's different than the pickleball court that we just created?
It would be the rest of them, right, Annie? Annie said she would be okay if we did something else and not that.
I already said yes, so somebody else has to.
Yes.
She said she doesn't need it.
She said she does it. It's not the most.
No, that's,
Annie said that could be pushed off.
Okay, okay. See, there's a lot of twos there.
Annie's actually worried with all the items that her department got. She's worried about her colleagues coming after her.
The next are all at Finkbeiner related to the band shell, Liberty House, and Liberty House restrooms.
On the list.
I mean, that's the cultural life of our city there.
I don't think those are interior public spaces as big as some of the other things that we've got.
That restroom at Liberty House and
Yes.
some of those other things do not seem that old. I mean, are they in need of repair if we had to prioritize?
Some of them are ADA compliance issues. Some of them need significant repair. They are older.
On the Liberty House?
Oh no,
restroom?
excuse me, not the Liberty House.
Modular-
Sorry.
And for clarity, it's painting, interior and exterior painting of the restrooms.
Or it could be
Wrong restroom.
vandalized in a minute.
That's correct.
We can move on if there's no other third
on.
taker.
Come on.
Lob field, snack bar, painting and vinyl flooring, as well as HVAC. Replace the ductless split system. We don't need to do that? Okay. Annie?
That's what
Yes,
Annie
yes,
just said,
Annie
yes.
just
I
said we
say
need
it's
to-
in that part of the, yeah.
Scout hut interior paint.
Uh,
Okay.
that big of a deal.
Youth center, repair exterior walls. Andy?
Yeah, I don't think
Finkbeiner Park, site work for park amenities, benches, picnic tables, and grills.
think those were selected. Oh, there's only one there.
There's only one.
Yeah, I
vote
think
there.
for amenities that you just mentioned, those are things that the public uses on a regular basis, the benches, picnic tables, grills. And I have made recent observations by being there that they could use a little TLC.
Yeah.
So that's why I voted for that.
Yeah,
To what again?
I'll yes that.
Okay.
No, to the park amenities, the benches,
Yep.
picnic tables, grills.
All right.
All right.
I will say yes.
Yep. It's a party. Big Piner.
Yes.
I think it's a cul-de-sac on the
I think the cul-de-sac area, Annie.
construction.
Chin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that will be a priority, just not now.
Gladstone Park hand dryers replacement. Parking lot seal and stripe. That was done. Play structure and other park amenities. And then Historical Society Museum, restore wood framed windows, replace exterior doors, and exterior paint.
Yes, there. So
Any other takers there?
Okay.
Seeing none, we'll move on.
go up. Did we do the Fitcher Foundation? Was that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Louis Pompey, maintenance shed, replacing the existing drinking fountain.
On that one.
That's correct.
That's what that is.
Butterfield Station?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Louis Pompey snack bar interior paint. Louis Pompey snack bar interior paint. $14,972.
That is it.
Identified as a
Andy, on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay.
Parks Yard. I would suggest we not fund anything there. Recreation, Human Services, offices, garage roof, garage interior paint, and garage floor.
Open air anyway, right?
Yes.
And I think that's, that's part of the challenge.
The next one on the list would be the parking lot seal and stripe asphalt there. And we are done with facilities.
All right. Are we good with facilities?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Moving on to streets.
Wait, let's go to a final summary.
Final summary, we're at $10,500,892.
All right. Streets it is.
Streets it is. 2. These are all the street segments with 2 votes. Route 66 from Grand Avenue to Vermont Avenue. Route 66 from Vermont to Glendora. And Route 66 Glendora to Pasadena.
What are the right here? They're
51, 47, and 46.
But it's
Yes.
1.5 million.
Hunter's Trail to Compromise Line also has 2 votes.
Well, those 3 years.
Yeah, this is a much smaller list, so we'll go just for consideration.
Next on the list is Grand Avenue, Sierra Madre to Palm.
There are 2.
Then Juanita from the San Dimas Wash to Bonnie Cove. Juanita Avenue from Sunflower to Valley Center. Sunflower Avenue from Juanita to Gladstone. Sunflower from Gladstone to the 210 freeway. That's it. Any takers on Route 66?
You'd be awfully close.
Grand north of Sierra Madre is slow traffic.
No.
Yeah. I don't want to mess with it. Column F, council member, here are the PCI scores.
Council member, column F is the PCI scores here.
What I have highlighted.
I think suffice to say they're all in not great shape. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right. That's what I did. Well, I didn't. I mean,
we're trying
But we can't get to all of this.
Anything you do will be a positive contributor to the PCI score.
I didn't pick was 40.
Anyone want to change their, or not change, add a vote to any one of the Route 66 segments?
How much money do we have left? About
$1.5 million.
million?
1.5 million.
There's also, if it's, all right, the other ones that are close, we're looking at Juanita Avenue. There's a couple segments there.
I drove Juanita this week. It's bad. It's really not good.
Well, going back to your point, Moises, of the crews being able to stage. So we have two that were not picked on Glendora Avenue.
Yeah.
Are those like side by side, and could the staging work well there?
On Grand or Gladstone?
I'm looking at the third one down and the fourth one down. Vermont to Glendora.
That's Route 66.
That's Route 66.
Okay, yeah. Okay, well, 66.
Yeah. And then I would, so the Glendora to Pasadena is not selected. There's 2. Vermont to Glendora also is not selected. There's 2. And then Grand to Vermont. I would point out on the Juanita really quick, if I may, go down. There's one that's a smaller segment on Juanita that has 2 votes. That's $75,000. You picked ones on either side of that, but not the street segment in the middle. If the council wants to consider that.
Yep.
You're looking at Sunflower, I think.
That's Sunflower.
What
Talking
he's saying
Juanita.
is on Juanita Avenue, we've got. You put mine on there. That's fine.
Yeah, that makes
My
sense.
OCD is not.
There you go.
That PCI is 75.
It's a slurry seal. It's not a grind and overlay.
It's a much quicker application. Yeah.
Well, then can somebody?
So that would be Sunflower Avenue, Gladstone to 210, and then Juanita, Sunflower to Valley Center. Oh, these 2. Any?
No, I have no takers on Route 66.
Well-
Line to that, just to be done.
No, I,
Give one sunflower some love. A lot of people go off of sunflower.
Yeah, but sunflowers.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'll
I'll
add
do
the
it.
two sunflowers.
I'll do that.
Okay. All right, Shauna and David. Well, let's go to the final summary.
Calling me when people are.
all right.
All right.
There you go.
Sunflower never stops. That's
Now
It
we're
does.
at the state average.
That's correct. Just above it. One above it.
Okay, just wait a minute. I've got a report I gotta give at 7:30 tomorrow.
Is the
And
mayor,
can-
is the council okay with
Can you
streets
go
on
to the
this one? Here?
facilities?
It's on this list as well,
Good.
sir.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
So for
Other-
Council member, we'll print out a copy of this for you for your meeting in the morning. We can email this to you.
Oh, okay. 60 items, huh?
So the total now lies at 11.8 million, approximately 8.7 million for streets and roads, and approximately 3.1 million for facilities. We will work as hard as we
Sure.
possibly
Do
can.
you need toilets? You? Yeah, it put me down for toilets for the chamber.
Got it.
He said no.
Well, Gary's
No,
saying
Gary's over
yes,
there saying
and
yes.
Joe's
I'll
saying no,
mark me
so.
down on the toilet. That's like, what,
We'll make sure they're the taller ones, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Comfort-
19 inches.
Comfort
Yes.
seated.
I'll tell you what, when we're in there, Joe, we'll take a look at all of it.
I'm trying to understand why that's called the old Chamber of Commerce. The only Chamber of Commerce I know of than.
That's
Yeah,
right.
well,
The economic development, yeah. Okay, Mayor, for the group, are we good with this?
Group, are we well?
Yes.
I think we've landed the plane.
We will put an item on next Tuesday just to recap this,
Okay.
if that's okay with everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Thank you, gallery, for your participation.
there are diehard.
Any closing comments? Hearing none, the meeting's adjourned at 9:47 p.m. Thank you.